to my kitchen hangout this Friday. Starting right off by doing some cooking. I'm going to roast some tomatoes, jalapenos, and garlic. And then I'm going to tell you what kind of dish we're going to make out of all of this. These are those beautiful, the Mighty Vine tomatoes that we have just outside Chicago. And I'm going to roast these guys the way that I've showed you how to roast them. I've heated the pan ahead of time, as you could see there. And I threw the garlic. I'll keep that right in the center here and lay these tomatoes around the outside of it. About a pound of tomatoes. I'm going to do a bunch more of this is jalapenos and the garlic. I'm doing more than I need for this recipe because I'm also going to use it. I'm going to use it in a dressing. So let's see if we can find a way to nestle these guys down in here into this hot non-stick pan. I think I can figure out a way to get this last one in there. Okay, let's look at that. Okay, so this guy will come over. I knew that was going to happen. Okay, so we've got jalapenos, tomatoes, and garlic. Those are, pardon me, boy, those jalapenos must be really spicy because the second they hit this pan cut like that, they released capsaicin, which is the hot part of any chili, and it released it into the air. So all capsaicin is really volatile in the air when you're working with it in any way. So you're going to sense something like that. Probably a good idea to turn on an exhaust fan or open a window, neither one of which I have done here because the windows are right adjacent to the fire station, and you certainly wouldn't want to have to deal with listening to the fire engines go, should they go during this live broadcast that we're doing here. And when I turn on the exhaust fan over the hood that's over there, well, it makes a lot of noise. So that's why I haven't done that here. We worked in a sort of closed environment here just for sound purposes for you guys. Okay, so when you look at that, you would really think about salsa kind of right away. And that's actually what we're going to make with that. I am going to make salsa de molcajete. Now, it's not something that I've done with you guys before, so I thought this would be really great. And then that salsa de molcajete becomes then the seasoning for one of my favorite dishes from Veracruz. Pardon me. Again. This is what happens when you do all this stuff live. If we were doing Mexico one plate at a time, we would have cut and started all over again. But you're having to deal with my coughing here. Okay, arroz a la tumbada. A la tumbada, I'm trying to get away from those guys over there. A la tumbada is sort of a slangy expression that sort of means all sort of thrown together. When you tear down a wall, you tumbar la pared. And so this is sort of like everything is just jostled and thrown together. But it's a great seafood dish, arroz a la tumbada. For me, it's the second best dish from the state of Veracruz. The first dish being the fish a la Veracruzana that probably everyone knows with the tomato sauce that has capers and olives in it. Okay, so what we're doing here is to roast these tomatoes to enhance their sweetness, of course, and also to really bring up their flavor a lot. Then when they are roasted, salsa de molcajete will be done in a molcajete. So let's talk about molcajetes. I'm going to do some of it in here, and then I'm going to show you how you do that same thing in a food process, in a blender. Okay, let's see what these guys are like before we go any further here. See if they're getting some nice color on the bottom of them there like that. That's looking pretty good. Our garlic here is getting little black spots on it, which means that it's ready to turn over now. We want the garlic to be really soft, because that will take away the flavor that a lot of us don't like in garlic, sort of raw, punchy things that punchy thing that tends to grow in a dish. Let's take a look at these guys here. They're getting a little color. I'm going to leave them face side down for a little bit longer there. Those are the culprits that are making me cough here a lot. So now that one needs a little bit more time. And then let's look at this guy too also. Okay, we're going to let those go now for a minute while I talk about molcajetes. So this is a mortar that is made out of basalt. So basalt is a type of lava rock that is very hard. Most of the lava rock that you see in lava flows is tuffed. And tuft is very aerated and very light. And if you make a molcajete or a mortar out of tuft, you will just grind away at it and it'll just grind this grit right into your food. So you don't want that kind. So when you're in Mexico, you'll really want, if you're going to bring one of these guys home, or if you're going to go to your local Mexican grocery store and see if they have molcajetes, you want one that is really going to be useful. So you want to look, first of all, for heaviness, okay? If it seems really heavy, it's probably made from good basalt, not from tuft. A lot of the ones that they sell in tourist places are made from tuft because they know you're going to take it home and just put it on your mantle and fill it with something and not really cook with it. But if you're going to get one that you cook with, then what you really need to do is to choose one that holds about 3 cups of liquid, because you can make a nice molcajete salsa in it, crushing all of the ingredients together. But you want one that shows a little bit of roughness here. It usually looks like somebody has taken a nail and just kind of pounded it into the surface. Now you can't see it too much on this one, but maybe up here you'll see those little pock marks. Those little pock marks are what I'm talking about. This one has been used a lot, so it's that it has sort of worn away just a tiny little bit here. And I'm not quite sure what we're doing here. We don't have the right heat going on over here. Okay, so back to this thing. You'll notice that in one that is made for regular use, that like in a kitchen, not for decorative purposes, it will usually be flat here and then have a pretty sharp angle right around here. The ones that are made for the tourist markets, they tend to just be rounded all over. Those are not very useful at all for any of this, and I wouldn't even suggest you buy one or use one if you happen to have already brought one home from Mexico, say. Okay, so 3-cup capacity, heavy weight, a little pock marks on the inside, a very sharp angle there, and that's the kind that you're looking for. They sell them here in Chicago at almost every Mexican grocery store, the good quality ones that people can actually work with. Okay, so now we've got that all set up. Next thing we're going to talk about is what kind of seafood that is going to go into this particular molcajete salsa arroz a la tumbada. And you can use pretty much anything that you can lay your hands on. What is typically used in the area of Veracruz is shrimp, and then clams typically will go into it, and squid. So I'm going to say that this is a rice dish, but it starts with already cooked rice. If you are going to cook rice just for this dish, then you're going to want to, if you want to use some squid, put the squid in with the rice. Now, I'm not going to do that today because I'm starting with already made rice here. When I make Chinese food at my house, I always make extra rice so that I can use it for something like this arroz a la tumbada, maybe for some fried rice. That is something that you'll have to think about if you're going to be making rice ahead of time. You could use 2 cups of it to make this arroz a la tumbada. Okay, we're turning these guys over now. They've got a little bit more char on them. We've got, you can see bubbling going around the edges of these, so they're going to be just about right. Now, what I'm going to use for seafood for this dish is the peeled and deveined shrimp that you can buy very easily in the frozen food counter of most grocery stores. I'm using the pink shrimp from the Florida Keys. I love that product, and so we use it a lot in our restaurant. And then this is some scallops. These are from large scallops, which we get here in the restaurant. They are sea scallops that come from the Hudson Canyon. Off of New Jersey, my favorite scallop in the world, if you want to know the truth. Yeah, those little tiny bay scallops that they have up in Nantucket are pretty good too. But I love these. I eat them all the time. These are just torn into big pieces so that they can distribute beautifully through the rest of the dish. Now, I've got some mussels here that I'm going to pull out of the refrigerator. And we can talk a little bit about that. I said originally this would be something that's made with clams because there's not a whole lot of mussels in Mexico in Veracruz. There is in Baja California, and they have wonderful mussels. These are because they have really cold water in Baja. But most of the rest of Mexico is warmer water, so mussels don't thrive, but clams can, okay? So let's take a look at this. When you buy these are the ones from Prince Edward Island. When you buy them, they could start to open up just a little bit. Now, people don't feel comfortable cooking with it because that indicates that the mussel itself is dying. So you might want to just touch it against the countertop here and see if it starts to pull back together. This one doesn't seem to be pulling back. It's not open very much, but it doesn't seem to be pulling back very much. Most of these are completely closed here, as you could see. Let's see if this one will go back closed. No, they don't seem to be. They're just a little bit open though. So see if that one will do it. No, these ones that are open. So I don't know about the age of these. They may not be as lively as I thought they were when they came, but they're not open wide. They're not gaping open. So I think they're going to be okay for what I'm doing here. Now, I love the flavor of mussels, and I don't love the flavor of clams. So I would encourage you to choose which one of those things that you like. But if you're going to use the clams, you're going to use the small clams, the ones that they would call steamers, okay? But I'm using these. If you get your mussels and they have beards on them, like where they were connected to a long rope, then you'll want to take that off, just pull it out. If they're kind of dirty, then you're going to want to scrub those off. I got these, they had no beards, and they don't have anything to scrub off, so I didn't have to do anything with that. Okay, I think we're about done with this very robust procedure that we've been working with here. I'm going to take another skillet and put it over here. And we just want to make sure that everything here is soft. Now that's the critical thing. So when I look at a piece of garlic like this, the skin just popped right off of that one. It's completely soft. I can move it between my fingers, and I feel that there's no rigidity at all in there. I'm going to separate off some of the jalapeno and the garlic to make a dressing out of for a salad in a minute, and then the rest of this garlic here and the rest of the jalapeno is going to go into our salsa. So let's look at this. Right, we'll leave these guys in the skillet for the time being. Oh, now that I've done that, okay. So what we want to do is talk about how to use this molcajete. So I've got, I'm just going to hit it with the pestle because it's going to crush it a little bit, and then it'll pop. I can pop the little papery skin right off of it there, and then I'm going to put the garlic in here first. This papery skin was already just about off of this guy and off of that one, and then twist this one a little bit, and I can just get that papery skin right off of it like that. Okay, now I'm going to take the top off of this because it's got the last little bit of stem on it. And then I'm going to put that there. And we're going to start to do our crushing of the garlic and the jalapeno. Now this, when you do it, is just an amazing aroma. Roasted garlic and roasted green chili together. And I would suggest, even if you think that you really don't want to have to crush this stuff, but you have a mortar of any kind, always crush the garlic and the red chili, the green chili into a paste in this, and there's a reason for that. Now you can see what I'm doing is rock against rock here, and that gives me a kind of crushing that a blender or a food processor will not give me at all. And what the blender will give me is something that's finely chopped. This, where you really are crushing those two elements together, will bring out flavors that this will never bring out. So I'm going to show you sort of my easy version of salsa de molcajete. I'm only doing the onions, the garlic and the jalapeno in the molcajete. And then I'm going to use, I will show you how to crush one of those guys in there, but I'm going to do the rest of them in this piece of equipment so that I can get that done really quickly. Now, if I were going to go the whole way with putting the tomatoes in here, then I would do this, but I have to do them one at a time. Do you see that? You see what that looks like? It's already starting to look like this just amazing salsa. But if I do this, that's going to give me kind of the same texture. Now, I just did it very gently and then stopped it because I don't want this to turn into a puree. I still want there to be a lot of texture in it. Just those two runs through that will give me almost the same texture that I could get, say, in 10 minutes or so of working this all together. There's still some pieces of tomato, which is what I wanted to see in this thing. Now, usually you wouldn't serve salsa de molcajete hot. You would let it cool off, and then I could season it if I was going to use this as a dipping sauce, say, or a salsa to be able to put onto tacos or something like that. This is by far my favorite of the salsas to use for tacos. But I would take some white onion, chop it up, rinse it under cold water, and when this was cooled off, I would add that to it along with a bunch of chopped cilantro. That's not where we're going to go with this particular preparation, because now we're going to start to build our arroz a la tumbada, and we're going to use this as the base of it. So you get kind of 2 for 1 here. You got a chance to see me go through my standard way of making salsa de molcajete, roasting all the ingredients, crushing the garlic and the jalapeno in this, or you could use serrano or any other kind of fresh green chili that you want, and then utilize my blender to get the right texture of the tomatoes without spending lots and lots of time one by one crushing them into the mortar. So we've got salsa de molcajete there. I'm going to go ahead and add some salt to it just to start it off here, and then just mix that right into it, and then we're going to start building the arroz a la tumbada. Okay, so I've got a big pan here. You have to have a fairly large pan. It doesn't have to be a big deep skillet like this one. It could be done in a large saucepan if you wanted to, but I'm going to grab some olive oil here to go over the base of this skillet, and the pan is already kind of hot. I'm not doing this like a fried down base like I would do it for lots of the sauce work that we do. So the pan is warm, so this is going to come to a simmer. Well, the salsa is warm too. It's going to come to a simmer right away. And then I'm just going to stir that for a minute as the flavors kind of meld together in this. And then I am going to add to it now some chicken broth. We do a dark chicken broth here at our restaurants, and that's what I'm using here. You can see I'm not trying to cook this down until it's like a paste, like I will often say, like tomato paste. I just want it to be sort of brothy like that, but come to a and then we're going to pour in the chicken stock. You might think that that's a weird thing to put in a seafood dish, but to tell you the truth, I actually prefer it in this dish. I really like to have that chicken balance of flavors. If you happen to have some fish stock, then you could easily use that. There's a brand of, it comes in a UHT box, that kind of broth that they sell in some of the stores that comes from Spain. I believe it's called El Gallo, but I'm not for sure. But it's from Spain. It's only one that I've seen here, and I think it's amazing. And they have a fish stock in a box that is the shelf stable. You don't even have to put it in the refrigerator, and it's delicious. So you might want to try that. They have a paella version, that one that you would just put into a paella when you were making it, which is sort of like what we're doing here, or a fish stock, but feel free to use a chicken broth for this. Okay, so next things that's going to go in will be the herbs. We want to bring this to a boil. Some of you will have access to epazote, which I've used, I think, for the last 3 weeks in a row. This is beautiful epazote. It's the one that's sort of a powerful flavor, but it does grow wild all over the United States, and you can find it in Mexican grocery stores, and you can grow it very easily. I'm going to take a few sprigs of this. It usually just gets added into whatever you're going to season it with in the whole sprig form. So I'm going to set this guy over here, and then we're going to once that comes to a boil, we're going to add all of these ingredients pretty much at the same time. I'm going to give a little head start to the mussels, because they will take the most time to season in here and open up. But before we go any further with this, I'm going to give it a taste, because I want to finish my seasoning now as it's coming to a simmer, so that I don't have to do anything to it at the very end. My stock was seasoned already. I added a little bit of seasoning to the salsa de molcajete, so I'm in a very good place with all of that. So when this comes to a full boil, we will add these other ingredients here to it. So we have a couple of cups of rice, which is already cooked. So this is how it's different than a paella. We're going to add cooked rice to this instead of cooking all of this stuff with the rice. This is the kind of rice that I taught you a few weeks ago, which is the pilaf style, starting with the dry rice and onion, cooking in oil in a pan until the kernels of the rice turn from translucent to opaque, a kind of milky opaque color, then adding broth to it and simmering that. So we're here at a complete boil. So I'm going to add these guys. I wonder if I do that one. That guy will come back. Yeah, see, here's a good example of it. It's just closing right back up. It had really was quite gaping, but now it's closing right back up. So we'll put these guys around the sides here. And then while these are cooking, we will do a quick salad. Let's make the dressing first, and it's going to be with roasted garlic and jalapeno, the same two flavorings. That's why I thought of this particular dressing when I was thinking about something good to go with Arroz a la Tumbada, because this sort of mirrors or echoes the flavors that we found in this salsa de molcajete. Okay. I'm going to put these guys in here, but I think I should probably go for another blender jar here. And so I put those guys in here first, and then I'm going to add some olive oil, or you could make it with vegetable oil, or a mixture of olive oil and vegetable oil. And this is a sweet sherry vinegar. It's a little bit like a balsamic vinegar, but it's a little lighter than balsamic. You can find it in a number of the really well-stocked grocery stores, but if you can't find it, use balsamic vinegar for this. And then I'm going to add salt to it, and then we're just going to blend this guy until it's completely smooth. The nice thing about working with roasted garlic like this is it's a wonderful emulsifier, so it'll give a slight creaminess to this dressing here. Now, I started on a slow speed, and now I'm going to turn it up so it will be more emulsifying. All of our mussels are open now. Take a look down in there. It's really great. You can see how they've opened up beautifully, and they're gorgeous, gorgeous mussels. And now the very last thing, because they cook very quickly, will be well, I'm going to put the scallops in here and get them rolling around in here. And then I'm going to add the shrimp. The shrimp won't take more than a couple of minutes to cook at all. So look at how gorgeous that is. This is quite a spectacular dish. Okay, so let's let those cook for a couple of minutes while we finish. Rice will be the last thing that we'll be adding into that. And now let's look at this dressing here. I'm going to sort of spoon it up so that you can sort of see what that's like. It's got that slight creaminess to it, and that's from the garlic mostly. And I'm going to give it a little taste. So I've said this before, but I will say it again. If your dressing doesn't taste slightly salty, if you could eat it off a spoon, it's probably not going to do well as a salad dressing because it won't have the power that it needs to be able to lightly coat something and time. So a little bit more salt in it there because it wasn't quite enough. And let's look at these gorgeous greens that we have going here. Let's stir these guys down in there. Okay. So, I think a lot of you know, if you've watched Mexico One Plate at a Time, that I have a large garden. It's a production garden for our restaurant. And even though we're only open for takeout and delivery right now, though this next week we get to open patio seats up, and so we're going to be welcoming people back into our restaurant after almost 3 months now. I have been growing all these things. Well, not me personally, but the team that works growing these, and I just have to show you what they're just spectacular. So this is a type of a leafy bok choy, but it's a purple version of that. This is a type of mustard green that is called the golden frills. And then this one is a mizuna. So that's also the mizuna is also in the mustard family and has a sort of like spiciness to it that I think is just really spectacular. So the dressing, I'm going to use that technique of going around the edge of the bowl here. And remember, with these little salad greens, I don't know if you guys grow little, what I would call like the mesclun mixes, that kind of stuff. That's what this is right here. They want light dressings, almost always. Something like this one. This has a lot of flavor power because all of these greens have a lot of flavor power too. So we'll toss everything. I kind of roll it around so that it picks up the dressing from the side of the bowl. So roll it around in there and it'll give a really nice flavor to it. So I got enough salt in the dressing so that this tastes completely seasoned. Maybe you're one of those people that likes to add salt to your salad separately. Then you could do this completely unseasoned and then just season your salad. I like to go the other direction and season the dressing. So we'll put that guy here. We'll take the rice and put it into this mixture here. And let's take a look at the proportion here. Look at that. So it's like a real brothy paella. Super beautiful. Okay, turn it off now, and we're ready to serve. So I'm going to serve it into a flat bowl here, because I think it looks really beautiful that way. Just using a ladle to scoop everything up. Now this is a dish, because it comes from the state of Veracruz, it typically would be made with jalapenos, because the capital of the state of Veracruz is Jalapa. And any person from Jalapa or thing from Jalapa is a jalapeno. These are jalapenos because they originate from the state of Veracruz. Okay, there you see that beautiful steaming bowl of seafood soup with the rice in it. Arroz a la Tumbada. This is a perfect dish for you to explore, to experiment with, to have fun with during the summertime when you're looking for something that's lighter, but you still want a warm dish, because I think it's one of the most satisfying dishes, not just from the state of Veracruz, but also in the whole Mexican repertoire. I hope you enjoy having a good time making it. It's an easy dish to make, as you could see that I could do it in a very little time, and serve it with a beautiful salad, hopefully of your own homegrown greens. Thanks for hanging out in the kitchen with me in this very, very coughing episode, but hey, that's what happens when you're working live. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again next Friday. Bye-bye.